48 hours, 2 rotations of the Earth. That is not a timeline for a diplomatic transition. It is an eviction notice. For most people, 48 hours is a weekend, a breath of time to relax. But for Prince Harry, staring out at the manicured lawns of his Montecito estate, it represents the violent, sudden death of the life he sacrificed everything to build. The California sun is shining, casting a golden glow over the Santa Ynez Mountains. But inside the Sussex household, the air is freezing. The silence of the exclusive neighborhood was shattered, not by the chirping of birds, but by the aggressive mechanical whine of sirens. They didn't come with the fanfare of a royal motorcade. There were no outer riditors, no flags fluttering on the bonnets, just a convoy of black government SUVs, heavy, armored, and unmistakably American. The vehicles bear the insignia that strikes fear into the heart of every undocumented immigrant, every visa violator, and now apparently the son of the King of England, the Department of Homeland Security. When the agent stepped out, the dynamic was shockingly wrong. For his entire life, Harry has been conditioned to a specific rhythm of interaction: deference, bowed heads, averted eyes, and the soft murmur of Your Royal Highness. Today, there was none of that. The federal agents walked up the driveway with the heavy, purposeful stride of men who are not impressed by titles, lineage, or Netflix contracts. They were not here to protect a prince. They were here to process a subject. The document they placed on the polished oak table was thin, unassuming, yet heavier than any crown. The paper wasn't parchment. It was standard government issue, crisp and cold. The header didn't bear a royal crest, but the seal of the United States government. As Harry's eyes scanned the text, the legal jargon jumped out like physical blows. Revocation of visa privileges. Citation. Intersection 212A2. Grounds. Admitted violation of controlled substance laws. It was a visceral gut punch. The realization hit him with the force of a physical assault. The royal shield is gone. For years, Harry operated under the subconscious belief that his bloodline was a form of international currency, a diplomatic immunity that transcended borders and bureaucracies. He believed he was untouchable. He believed that the rules applied to others, not to the grandson of Queen Elizabeth II, but in this terrifying moment, the illusion shattered. In the eyes of the American legal system, Prince is just a nickname. Legally, he is just Henry Charles Albert David, a foreign national who lied on a federal form. He is a guest who has overstayed his welcome. The irony is suffocating. The very instrument Harry used to secure his financial freedom, his memoir, Spare, has become the weapon of his destruction. He wrote about his drug use to seem relatable, to purge his demons, to sell a narrative of healing. He didn't realize he was writing a confession. Every anecdote about cocaine, every psychedelic trip described in vivid detail in his bestseller has been highlighted, categorized, and used as evidence against him. He sold his secrets for millions, and now those secrets are costing him his home. Panic begins to set in, not the frantic panic of a child, but the cold, paralyzing dread of a man watching his foundation dissolve. The phones are lighting up. Lawyers are screaming orders. Publicists are trying to spin a narrative that is spiraling out of control. But the DHS agents remain impassive. They are not interested in the spin. They are interested in the deadline. 48 hours. That is the time he has to pack up a life to explain to his children why they are leaving to find a country that will take him. But as Harry looks at the agents, a darker realization forms in the pit of his stomach. This isn't just bureaucracy at work. The machinery of the U.S. government is vast and slow. It doesn't move this fast, this decisively without a push. Someone pulled a lever. Someone made a call. Someone ensured that this file didn't get lost in the bottom of a drawer, but ended up on the desk of a federal judge. He looks away from the agents, past the blinding flashbulbs of the paparazzi, swarming the gates like vultures sensing a carcass. He looks east. The attack didn't originate in Washington. The Americans are just the executioners. The judge, jury, and architect of this nightmare is sitting 5,000 miles away in the gray, rain-soaked heart of London. The message has been delivered loud and clear. You wanted to be on your own. Fine. Now you are truly on your own. To understand the sheer brutality of this moment, to truly grasp how a prince of the blood can be evicted like a common squatter, we must rewind the tape. We need to step back from the sirens wailing in Montecito and return to the moment Harry felt invincible. We must return to the launch of Spare. Do you remember the media blitz? It was a global coronation of victimhood. Harry sat on plush armchairs across from Anderson Cooper and Stephen Colbert, basking in the studio lights, a charming smile on his face as he dismantled his family's reputation piece by piece. He was selling his truth. He was monetizing his trauma. He spoke with the breathless excitement of a man who believed he had finally seized control of the narrative. In those pages and in those interviews, Harry spoke with a radical, almost reckless candor about his history with drugs. He detailed the cocaine he snorted as a teenager to feel different. He waxed poetic about the magic mushrooms he consumed at a party in Hollywood, describing how the toilet bowl transformed into a talking head. He spoke of marijuana as a spiritual tool for his mental health. He thought he was being authentic. He thought he was branding himself as the modern, relatable, healed guru of the wellness generation. He thought he was untouchable. But while Harry was busy counting the millions from his book deal, he failed to notice that he had just handed his enemies a loaded gun. In his arrogance, he committed the classic blunder of the privileged. He assumed the law was a flexible concept, something that bent for princes but broke for everyone else. He was wrong. The United States Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, is a cold binary instrument. It does not care about your trauma. It does not care about your mother's legacy. It cares about one thing: admissibility. Every foreigner entering the United States must answer a specific set of questions on FUMS 160. One question is lethal in its simplicity. Have you ever violated any law or regulation relating to controlled substances? It is a yes or no question. If Harry answered yes, his visa would have been denied automatically, requiring a complex, rarely granted waiver. If he answered no, which he almost certainly did to gain entry, he committed federal perjury. For years, this discrepancy was a ticking time bomb. How could the man who wrote spare be the same man who checked no on his visa application? The two realities could not coexist. One of them was a lie. And in the United States, lying to a federal officer is a felony. But here is the mystery. Millions of people lie on visa forms. Rock stars, actors, billionaires, they all have checkered pasts. Yet they glide through lax without issue. Why did the trap snap shut on Harry? Why now? The answer lies in the silence of Buckingham Palace. While Harry was on his press tour screaming his grievances to the world, the royal family did not scream back. They did not sue. They did not give interviews. They adopted the strategy of the gray rock. Unresponsive, uninteresting, immovable. Or so it seemed. In the shadows, a different game was being played. This is where the narrative shifts from a legal drama to a geopolitical thriller. Enter the royal enforcer. Princess Anne does not seek the spotlight. She does not have a Netflix deal. She is the hardest-working member of the firm. A woman of steel and discipline who views the monarchy not as a soap opera, but as a military operation. She is the colonel of the blues and royals. She is the gold stick in waiting. And according to deep state rumors swirling through the corridors of power, she is the architect of Harry's downfall. While King Charles agonized over the love for his son and Prince William wrestled with his rage, Princess Anne reportedly took a pragmatic surgical approach. She understood that Harry was no longer just a nuisance. He was a security threat to the crown. His erratic behavior and his obsession with truth made him a liability. The theory is chilling in its plausibility. The creation of the UNT file. This was not a collection of tabloid clippings. This was a forensic compilation of data held within the royal archives and security logs. It allegedly contained detailed reports from Scotland Yard protection officers dating back a decade. It documented incidents that had been scrubbed from the public record dates, times, and locations of illegal substance use that matched with devastating precision the anecdotes Harry foolishly published in his book. The genius of the trap was that the royals didn't have to leak it to the press. They didn't have to dirty their hands with a tabloid war. They simply had to let the machinery of state-to-state diplomacy do the work. We can imagine the scene. A quiet meeting in a secure room in Washington or London. No fanfare, just a hurrinkung British attaché handing over a sealed dossier to a counterpart in the State Department or DHS. The message accompanying the file would be unspoken but deafening. The British government no longer asserts diplomatic protection over this individual. If you wish to review his visa status based on his public admissions, we will not object. In fact, here is the corroborating evidence to help you. It was a master stroke of malicious compliance. They used Harry's own book as the catalyst and then provided the fuel to burn him with it. Harry thought spare was his weapon against the family. He didn't realize it was actually his confession. He built his own scaffold, tied the noose, and put his head in it. All Princess Anne had to do was kick away the chair. Now, as the DHS agents stand in his living room, the full weight of his folly crashes down on him. He hasn't just been caught. He has been outmaneuvered by the very institution he called archaic and stupid. The old firm played the long game. They waited for the hype to die down. They waited for the American public to grow tired of his complaining. And then, when he was weakest, they allowed the law to take its course. Harry is now trapped in a punsa movement. The United States is ejecting him for lying. But the terrifying question remains. If he is forced to leave, where does he go? His instinct is to look across the ocean to the gray island he fled, assuming that blood is thicker than water. Assuming that no matter how bad things get, he is still the king's son. He thinks he can just go home. But he is wrong again. While the DHS closes the door in California, Prince William is already turning the key in London. The trap isn't just about kicking him out of America. It's about ensuring he has nowhere left to land. The unfall was the bait. Now comes the Iron Gate. While panic consumes the manicured hills of Montasutta, a very different atmosphere grips London. It is midnight. City is drenched in a cold, relentless rain, the kind that seeps into the bones and turns the cobblestones into mirrors reflecting the street lights. But in the private wings of the royal residences, nobody is sleeping. In Kensington Palace, the lights are blazing. Prince William stands by a window looking out into the darkness. But the man standing there is not the Wills. The public remembers the smiling boy who walked behind his mother's coffin, the charming husband, the loving brother. That man is gone. In his place stands the Prince of Wales, the heir apparent, a man whose heart has been hardened by years of public betrayal and private agony. For William, the time for sadness has passed. The time for worrying about his little brother's mental health is over. The moment Harry attacked the Princess of Wales, William's wife, the future queen in the pages of Spare, a line was crossed that can never be uncrossed. Tonight, William is not a brother. He is the enforcer. He is the guardian of a 1,000-year-old institution that is currently under siege by one of its own. In a move that has stunned the few insiders aware of it, William has reportedly bypassed the usual Slumavung royal committees. He has convened an emergency shadow session of the most senior advisors, the men in gray suits who actually run the palace. The agenda on the mahogany table is single-item, classified, and brutal. They have given it a code name that reeks of finality. Operation Iron Gate. This is not a public relations strategy. It is a containment protocol. It is a set of orders designed to treat the Duke of Sussex not as a returning prodigal son, but as a hostile foreign entity. The directive, drafted under William's steely supervision, is unprecedented in modern royal history. It goes far beyond the stripping of military titles or the removal of patronages. Those were symbolic slaps on the wrist. Iron Gate is a physical and diplomatic blockade. The details are chilling in their precision. First, the protocol instructs UK Border Force officials and Royal Protection officers at all major ports of entry, Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, to flag the passport of Henry Charles Albert David. Upon arrival, he is not to be whisked through the VIP Windsor suite. He is to be processed. He is to be treated as a foreign national of high risk. There will be no fast track. There will be no diplomatic courtesy. Second, and perhaps most devastatingly, comes the order regarding real estate. Frogmore Cottage is sealed. For Harry, Frogmore was not just a house. It was his last foothold on British soil. It was the only place where he could sleep safely within the security perimeter of the Windsor estate. Iron Gate changes the locks. The order is absolute. The lease is terminated. The property is vacated. The keys are gone. The message is physical and violent in its symbolism. You do not have a home here anymore. The true climax of this tragedy, the moment that will be written about by historians for decades, does not happen in a council room or at a border checkpoint. It happens over a secure telephone line. As the reality of the American deportation order sets in back in California, Harry is cornered. The DHS agents are at his door. The media is screaming. He is terrified. And when a man is terrified, he reverts to his oldest instinct. He wants his father. Harry reaches for his phone. His hands are shaking. He dials the private number of the king. Thousands of miles away in the quiet study of Clarence House, a phone begins to ring. King Charles sits in his armchair, looking older and more weary than ever before. He stares at the device. The screen lights up. The name Harry flashes a digital ghost from a happier past. The king's hand trembles. This is his darling boy. This is the son he walked behind a coffin with. This is the son he watched grow up, struggle, and leave. The father in him screams to answer. He wants to offer sanctuary. He wants to say, "Come home, we will fix this." He reaches out his hand, his finger hovering over the green button. But before Charles can slide his finger to accept the call, another hand enters the frame. It is a younger, stronger hand. It is William, the Prince of Wales, has entered the room silently. He stands over the seated king, his shadow casting a paw over the desk. His expression is not one of anger, but of cold, terrifying resolve. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to make a scene. He simply shakes his head. This is the moment the power dynamic of the House of Windsor shifts forever. In this silence, the baton is passed. William is no longer asking for permission. He is enforcing the survival of the monarchy. "Don't," William says softly. The single word hangs in the air like a guillotine blade. Charles looks up at his eldest son, his eyes filled with tears. "He is my son, William. He is in trouble. He made his choice." William replies, his voice cutting through the emotional fog of the room. "He sold us for freedom. He sold us for money. He attacked Catherine. He attacked Camilla. He tried to burn this house down to warm himself." The phone continues to ring. Once, twice, 3 times. The sound is agonizing, a rhythmic plea for help that is going unanswered. "If you answer that phone," William continues, his voice devoid of pity, "you are bringing the contagion back inside. We are finally free of the drama. If he comes back now, he destroys everything we have rebuilt. He is a security risk. He is a traitor to the crown. We do not negotiate with terrorists, and we do not shelter those who betray the family." Charles hesitates. The father wars with the king, but he looks at William. The future, the strength, the discipline, and he knows his son is right. The monarchy must survive. The individual must be sacrificed for the institution. Charles lowers his hand. He leans back in his chair, closing his eyes as a single tear traces a path down his cheek. The phone rings one last time and then silence. It goes to voicemail for Harry, listening to that empty dial tone in the chaotic living room in Montecito. The silence is louder than any scream. It is the sound of the final bridge burning. It is the sound of a door slamming shut that will never open again. He stares at the phone, unable to comprehend the magnitude of what just happened. He always believed that no matter what, his father would be there. He thought the Bank of Paw and the protection of the crown were infinite resources. He was wrong. William has effectively seized command of the family's emotional defenses. He has drawn a line in the sand that not even the king dares to cross. Harry isn't just being deported from America. He is being locked out of Britain. Operation Iron Gate has slammed shut. The prodigal son has nowhere to return to because the brother he once knew is dead. In his place stands a future king who has learned the hardest, coldest lesson of leadership. Sometimes, to save the kingdom, you have to sacrifice your own blood. If the rejection from London was a bullet to the heart, what awaits Harry in the master suite of his Californian fortress is the slow, agonizing twist of the knife. Harry lowers the phone, the phantom dial tone of his father's rejection still echoing in his mind. The silence from Clarence House was absolute. The iron gate has slammed shut. He stands alone in the hallway of the Chateau of Riven Rock, a $14 million mansion that suddenly feels less like a sanctuary and more like a mausoleum. Panic, cold and sharp, begins to claw at his throat. He is a man who has never truly had to fend for himself. He has moved from the protective cocoon of the palace to the army and then to the carefully managed bubble of celebrity. He needs a plan. He needs a partner. He needs the one person he went to war for, the woman for whom he burned every bridge, abandoned every title, and fought every tabloid. He turns his back on the cold reality of London and runs toward the warmth of Meghan. He bursts into the master wing of the house. In his mind, the script is already written. It is the script of a romantic thriller. The world is against us, so we run. We pack the bags, grab the kids, and disappear into the night. Maybe Canada, maybe a remote lodge in Botswana, maybe a private island in the Caribbean. As long as we are salt and pepper, as long as we are the palm trees joined at the bottom, we can survive anything. "Meg, we have to go," Harry says, his voice breathless, his eyes wide with the adrenaline of disaster. "They've pulled the visa." William blocked the return. "We can't stay here. The press is already surrounding the perimeter. We need to get the kids. I'm thinking Africa. We can be gone by dawn. He grabs a Louis Vuitton duffel bag from the closet and throws it onto the bed. His hands shaking as he starts pulling out clothes indiscriminately. Harry, the voice is calm. It is too calm. It cuts through the frantic energy of the room like a scalpel. Harry freezes. He turns around. Meghan Markle is standing by the floor-to-ceiling window looking out at the manicured gardens where the paparazzi helicopters are beginning to circle like vultures. She is not manic. She is not crying. She is not packing. She is dressed impeccably in a crisp white shirt and tailored trousers. Looking every inch the CEO of the brand they built together. But the warmth, that famous glowing warmth that charmed a prince and captivated a global audience, is gone. In its place is a steely, terrifying resolve. "I'm not going, Harry," she says. The words hang in the air, heavier than the deportation order itself. They suck the oxygen out of the room. Harry stares at her, his brain unable to process the syntax. What? What do you mean? We have 48 hours. If I stay, I'm arrested." "I'm deported. We have to stick together." Meghan turns to face him. Her expression is not one of malice, but of a heartbreakingly cold pragmatism. It is the look of a captain who realizes the ship is taking on water and has calculated that there is only one life jacket left. "You have to leave." She corrects him, her voice steady. "I cannot leave, not now." Harry drops the shirt he was holding. "But we are a team. It's us against the world. You said that, you promised that." "I have to think about the children," Meghan says, playing the ultimate trump card. "Archie and Liette are American citizens. They are in school. They have their friends here. This is their home. Do you expect me to uproot them in the middle of the night? To drag them across the world like fugitives because you lied on a visa form?" The accusation hits Harry like a physical blow. Because you lied. For years, it was always the firm that was to blame. It was the British press. It was the racists. It was William. It was always an external enemy. But now, for the first time, the finger is pointing directly at him. "I did it for us," Harry pleads, his voice cracking. "I wrote the book to tell our story, to pay for this house, to pay for the security. And that book has now made you a liability," Meghan replies, her tone shifting from wife to business partner. She walks over to the desk and closes her laptop, a gesture of finality. "Harry, look at the situation. My agency, WME, is just starting to get traction. American Riviera Orchard is about to launch. We are finally rebuilding our reputation after the Spotify disaster. If I run away with you now, I look like a failure. I look like a woman who married a criminal. I lose everything I have worked for." In that split second, the fairy tale dissolves. The magic dust settles and the harsh light of reality floods the room. Harry looks at the woman standing before him. He doesn't see the damsel in distress. He thought he rescued from the evil British press. He sees a survivor. He sees a woman who fought her way from being a briefcase girl on Deal or No Deal to the steps of St. George's Chapel. She is a climber, and climbers do not attach themselves to falling rocks. Harry realizes with a nausea that curls in his stomach that the transaction is complete. When he was a royal prince, he was a prize. He was the golden ticket to global fame. When he was a victim of the monarchy, he was a story to sell a multi-million-dollar narrative for opera and Netflix. But now he is a man with no country, no royal status, no diplomatic immunity, and a criminal record hanging over his head. He is no longer an asset to the Sussex brand. He is an anchor, and Meghan Markle does not drag anchors. She cuts them loose. "So that's it," Harry whispers, the fight draining out of him. "I'm just collateral damage." Meghan softens just for a moment, but it feels rehearsed. She steps closer, placing a hand on his arm, but there is no grip, no reassurance. "I have to protect the family, Harry. Someone has to stay here and keep the lights on. Someone has to protect the assets. You go, you sort this out, call your lawyers, appeal the decision. When it's fixed, come back. When it's fixed, they both know it won't be fixed. The DHS doesn't reverse deportation orders for drug users overnight. This isn't a temporary separation. This is an exile." Harry looks at her hand on his arm, then looks up into her eyes. He searches for the love that he sacrificed his relationship with his brother for. He searches for the loyalty he traded his military titles for. He finds only reflection. He sees himself small, alone, and foolish. He realizes that he was never the pilot of this journey. He was the rocket booster. He provided the thrust, the fuel, the elevation to get her into orbit. And now that she is in the stars, the booster is spent. It is detached. It falls back to Earth to burn up in the atmosphere alone. "I gave up everything for you," Harry says, his voice barely a whisper. It isn't an accusation, it is a eulogy. I know, Megan says, withdrawing her hand. And I loved you for it, but I cannot drown with you. The great romance of the 21st century ends not with a screaming match, not with throwing vases, but with a business decision. Harry nods slowly. He understands now. He turns back to the bed, zips up the half-empty duffel bag. He doesn't pack a suit. He doesn't pack his polo gear. He packs the essentials of a man on the run. He walks to the door of the bedroom, stopping at the threshold. He looks back at Megan one last time. She has already turned back to the window, watching the helicopters, calculating her next press release, planning how to spin this separation as a brave choice. She stands in the light of the luxury he bought her. He stands in the shadow. Harry walks out of the room, down the long, silent hallway lined with expensive art that he never really liked. He walks past the children's rooms, the doors closed, a silent goodbye catching in his throat. He cannot wake them. He cannot explain this. How do you tell a child that daddy isn't just leaving the house, but leaving the country? He steps out the front door into the cool California night. The air smells of eucalyptus and ocean salt, the scent of freedom he once craved. Now it smells of ash. He climbs into the back of a waiting car. Not a royal convoy, just a hired sedan. As the car pulls away, winding down the long driveway, Harry looks back at the mansion. The lights are blazing warm and inviting against the dark sky. It looks like the perfect home. But for Harry, it is a fortress that has just raised its drawbridge, leaving him stranded on the other side. He is walking into the darkness, and for the first time in his life, there is absolutely no one waiting to catch him. Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, is a cathedral of transit, a chaotic purgatory where millions of souls cross paths. For most, it is simply a place of waiting. But for Prince Harry, stepping out of a hired sedan at the curb of the Tom Bradley International Terminal, it is the site of a public execution. In a different life, a life that feels like it belongs to a stranger. His arrival here would have been a military-grade operation. There would have been a convoy of black Range Rovers sweeping directly onto the tarmac. There would have been the private suite, a secret terminal where billionaires and heads of state sip champagne far removed from the hoi polloi. There would have been a phalanx of Scotland Yard's finest, forming a human shield of Kevlar and muscle to keep the world at bay. Today, there is just Harry. He wears a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, the universal uniform of the celebrity trying to disappear. But you cannot hide a face that has been plastered on every newsstand, every television screen, and every Netflix homepage on the planet. As he pushes his own luggage cart through the automatic sliding doors, the atmosphere shifts instantly. It starts with a whisper, then a nudge, then the phones come out. It is a modern-day gauntlet. There are no paparazzi screaming his name that he could handle. That is a professional engagement. This is worse. This is the public. Hundreds of smartphones are raised like weapons, capturing the fallen prince in high definition. He hears the snickers. He hears the cruel commentary live streamed to Instagram and TikTok. Look, it's him. Where's Megan? He looks rough. Hey, Harry, spare some change. He keeps his head down, jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the dirty linoleum floor. He is stripped of His Royal Highness title, stripped of the diplomatic passport that once allowed him to glide through borders like a ghost. He stands in the TSA security line sandwiched between a backpacker and a businessman. The indignity is physical. He has to take off his belt. He has to remove his shoes. He has to take his laptop out of his bag. He is processed. The metal detector doesn't care about his lineage. The TSA agent, bored and indifferent, waves him through with a flick of a hand. The prince has become a passenger. Boarding the aircraft, the contrast becomes even more brutal. He walks down the jet bridge, the tunnel narrowing like a closing throat. He finds his seat first class, yes, but still public. He is seat 1A, he is not on a Gulfstream. He is not on a Royal Air Force Voyager. He is on a commercial flight, surrounded by strangers who paid for their tickets just like he did. As the heavy door of the aircraft closes, sealing him inside, the ambient noise of the cabin fades, replaced by the hum of the ventilation system. And then the silence hits him. It is a deafening, suffocating silence. For the first time in years, Harry is truly profoundly alone. There are no advisors to spin the narrative of the last 48 hours. There is no Megan to whisper affirmations in his ear to tell him that they are victims, that they are brave, that they are winning. There is just the window and the reflection of a man who looks older than his years. The plane taxis to the runway. The engines roar to life, pushing him back into his seat. As the aircraft lifts off, banking over the Pacific Ocean, the golden coast of California disappears beneath a layer of smog and cloud. He is leaving the freedom land. He is leaving the place where he thought he would build his empire. At 30,000 FT, the ghosts come to visit. He orders a drink, his hand trembling slightly as he lifts the glass. He looks out at the endless horizon and remembers the freedom flight of 2020. He remembers the exhilaration he felt when he first fled Canada for Lowe's Angels. He felt like Steve McQueen on a motorcycle jumping the fence. He felt like a conqueror. How did it go so wrong so fast? Memories flash before him, disjointed and painful. He sees his wedding day at Windsor, the sun shining, the world cheering for the fairy tale. He sees the balcony of Buckingham Palace, the RAF fly past roaring overhead, his grandmother, the Queen, smiling at him. He remembers the last conversation he had with Prince Philip. The old man, frail but sharp as a razor, had warned him. You think you are fighting the system, boy. You are the system. You step out of it and you are nothing but a celebrity, and celebrities are disposable. Harry had dismissed him as an angry old dinosaur. Now staring into the bottom of a whiskey glass, he realizes the old man was a prophet. He traded duty for popularity, but popularity is a fickle mistress. He traded the respect of 1,000 years of history for the applause of a studio audience. And now the applause has stopped. The studio is empty and the history has closed its doors. He closes his eyes trying to sleep, but sleep won't come. He is suspended in the air, a man with no country, too royal for America, too traitorous for Britain. Hours bleed into one another. The cabin lights dim. The flight attendants whisper in the galley, glancing at him with pity. Or is it disdain? He can't tell anymore. Paranoia, his old companion, settles in the seat next to him. Then the captain's voice crackles over the intercom. Cabin crew, prepare for landing. Harry opens the window shade. The California sun is a distant memory. Below him lies London. It is gray. It is raining. The city sprawls out like a bruised organism under a blanket of clouds. The temp snakes through the metropolis, dark and foreboding. As the landing gear deploys with a heavy mechanical thud, Harry's heart sinks into his stomach. This is not a homecoming. A homecoming implies warmth. It implies a welcome. He is entering enemy territory down there in the gloom of Heathrow Terminal 5. There are no flowers waiting. There is no King Charles waiting with open arms to forgive his darling boy. There is only the UK border force armed with the Iron Gate Directive. They are waiting to question the man who used to be a prince about his visa status. They are waiting to enforce the exile. The plane touches down. The wheels slam onto the wet tarmac, sending up a spray of water. The brakes screech. The journey is over, but the nightmare is just beginning. Harry unbuckles his seat belt. The fastened seat belt sign turns off with a chime that sounds like a gavel striking a judge's desk. He stands up, grabs his bag, and prepares to walk off the plane and into the cold, hard consequence of his freedom. The automatic doors of Heathrow Terminal 5 slide open, and the cold British wind hits Harry's face. It is a familiar chill, a damp, biting gust that he has known all his life. But today, it cuts deeper than ever before. It penetrates the thin fabric of his baseball cap and settles into his bones. There is no convoy waiting at the curb. There are no Royal Protection officers speaking into wrist microphones ushering him toward a side exit. There is just the gray concrete, the smell of wet asphalt and jet fuel, and the indifferent bustle of a city that has moved on without him. Harry stands on the pavement, clutching the handle of his suitcase. For years, he screamed to the world that he wanted to be just Harry. He wanted to escape the fishbowl. He wanted to break the chains of hierarchy and protocol. Well, be careful what you wish for. Standing alone on the taxi rank, waiting for a common black cab behind a line of tourists. The magnitude of his success becomes a crushing weight. He has achieved his goal. He is finally free. He is free from the bowing, free from the schedules, free from the expectations, but he is also free from protection, free from purpose, and free from the love that once grounded him. He is no longer the spare. To be a spare implies value. It implies that you are needed in case of emergency. Harry is no longer needed. He has become something far worse. He is discarded. The tragedy of Prince Harry is not that he lost his titles. It is that he traded his heritage for a mirage. He believed that the love of the public was permanent, that his truth was absolute, and that Hollywood would remain loyal forever. He forgot the oldest, most brutal rule of power. The monarchy plays the long game. Celebrity plays the short game. And when the music stops, the monarchy is still standing, immovable as stone. While the celebrity is left without a chair, the iron gate has done its job. It hasn't just kept Harry out of the palace. It has locked him out of his own identity. He is a man caught between two worlds, welcome in neither. He is too royal for the egalitarian America he offended, and too traitorous for the Britain he abandoned. A black London cab pulls up. Not a bulletproof Range Rover, not a sleek Jaguar, just a diesel-chugging taxi. Harry tosses his bag into the trunk himself. The driver doesn't get out to open the door. Before he climbs in, Harry takes one last look at the sky. Perhaps he is wondering if his brother is looking down from a window in Kensington Palace, or if his father is weeping quietly in the gardens of Clarence House. But the windows are dark, the curtains are drawn. The fortress of Windsor is impenetrable. He slides into the back seat, the leather cracked and worn. The car pulls away, merging into the anonymous traffic of the M4 motorway, disappearing into the fog and rain. The prince who wanted everything has ended up with nothing but his freedom. And as he is learning in this cold, lonely silence, freedom is a terrible thing to have when you have nowhere to go. So we are left with the final question, the one that history will ask for decades to come. Was it worth it? Did the millions of dollars, the tell-all books, and the fleeting applause of a studio audience make up for the loss of a father, a brother, and a home? Is William a ruthless tyrant for protecting the crown? Or is he a necessary guardian against betrayal? Look at Harry now, vanishing into the grey mist of London, and tell me, is this the face of a victor, or the face of a man who realized too late that he burned the only bridge that could lead him and